Okay, welcome everyone. This is a 90-minute masterclass. My name's Jonathan, and it's in honor of Masters Sunday. If you're not a golf fan, then it doesn't really matter to you, but this is kind of the biggest day of the year in terms of golf, in terms of that particular tournament. And to be a master in yoga isn't necessarily to be able to do every single posture perfectly. To be really a true master is to start to see just the subtleties in every posture, and it's more about knowledge and learning the precise technique and also what works for your own body, because every one of us is designed differently and our abilities are going to be different. So not to compare yourself with others, but accept where you are and give your full effort. So please sit up tall and join your hands together in front of your heart. Close your eyes. So to be a master means to bring a level of excellence, and specifically mindful excellence, to make every movement, every position, every engagement, tone, stretch, purposeful and meaningful. So it comes from a place of heightened awareness. And to be a master is something that you can't do overnight. You don't just get given it. It's over a long period of time of dedicated work, study, practice, and play. And that goes in all fields, that there is a certain amount of hours that you actually have to put into it, but mindful hours. Take a big breath in and a big breath out. And please begin in child's pose. So join your big toes together near the back of your mat and stretch your arms forward in front of you. You'll hear throughout there is a ding going on. It's currently set at 1 minute. Part of that is just to hold myself accountable. I have a tendency to talk and talk and talk and talk. But also just a great way to hold yourself accountable, practicing on your own. Actively reach your hands forward in front of you so your elbows lift up, and push down firmly with your hands. It's hard to consider yourself a master in a practice like yoga if you literally can't do yoga on your own without some other guidance. So that's where the timer really holds me accountable to stay in a pose and commit to a practice. On your next inhale, lift your hips, tuck your toes, and rise up for downward facing dog. Here in downward facing dog, bend your knees, tilt your sit bones high up into the air. Where I am, it's early morning, so the sun is shining in, which means my body is very slow going, but I know that we have some participating live on the East Coast, so a little bit more noon, lunchtime yoga, and then I think some also in Europe, so getting into the early evening yoga. So just being mindful of where you are at this moment in time. And your body will be different throughout the day in terms of capacity and ability. Actively push down with your hands. Lift your armpits a little bit higher. Stretch the hips way back as you push your hands forward. On your next inhale, slowly walk forward to a standing forward fold. Separate your feet about hip distance apart. That's about 2 fist widths distance. Bend your knees. Actively push your big toes down and the balls of your big toes, but try to widen your knees away from each other without actually turning them out. And then broaden your sit bones. On an inhale, lengthen your spine, lift up halfway. And then exhale and dive in. Again, inhale and lengthen your spine. And exhale to fold. And one last time, lengthen. And then bow in. And place your hands to your hips. Point your elbows to your sides so you can open your chest and your upper back evenly, and then inhale and rise all the way up to stand. Turn to the wide part of your mat, separate your feet wide, clasp your hands behind your back, bend your knees slightly, and then hinge forward over your legs. Actively pull your feet towards each other to feel the strength at the inner line of your legs. And then once you feel that strength, push your feet away from each other. And that strengthens the outer line of your legs. And eventually, the challenge is, can you create the strength on both sides simultaneously? So you get the same action of pulling your feet towards each other as you do by pushing the feet away from each other, which starts to get quite challenging. Okay, and then touch your hands down, lower down onto your knees. It's going to start with 2 1-minute timed holds for Headstand 1. Headstand 1 is cupping the back of your head like that. If you are unsure of yourself, position yourself up near a wall. If you don't want to do headstand, then go into forearm downward facing dog. So we'll reset the timer. 1 minute starts in 3, 2, 1, and get yourself up. It'll be about a 30-second rest. So Masterclass meaning expectation that you're a little bit stronger in your practice. This isn't your first time at the rodeo. Remember rodeos? I don't know if those were really that great, but they were a thing. Actively push down through the entire length of your forearm from elbow to wrist. So it's not just the elbow and maybe the outer hands. And then spread your toes, zip your legs up, and push your legs straighter above you. Breathe deeply. Use your breath to control yourself. You are welcome to stay for the entire about 2.5 minutes. So that's the first minute. Most of you might help to come down momentarily. Either pause in a child's pose, or you could sit on your heels with your hands to your thighs and look straight forward. Short rest, so just 30 seconds. Sometimes we do a minute, but only doing it 2 times, so 2.5 minutes total. Okay, get yourself ready if you're going up for the second minute, and head on up. It's never a good idea to jump up in headstand unless the wall is behind you. Then you can jump up. And if you're actually pretty good at headstand, you'll probably have a lot of controlled jumping. It's just as teachers, we see people trying to jump in the middle of the room and they can't actually do headstand, and that's a super dangerous position. So we'll sometimes say no jumping at all, but nothing wrong if you've got that rock solid option. If you want to add some leg variations early in practice, you could go legs wide out to the side, or you could zip your legs up. You could bring the bottoms of your feet together, open the knees out to the side, holding strong, breathing deep. And then that's 2 minutes or 2.5 total. Pause in a child's pose momentarily. Place your forehead to the floor, but have your hands directly under your shoulders. And then push with your hands first, lift your shoulders up, and then just push your head back like it's pressing into a headrest so that it lines with your torso. And then all together as one unit, bring your torso and head up. Place your hands to your thighs, look forward, and open your eyes. Okay, good news. That was fun. Next is 2 single 1 minutes of handstand with, again, a 30-second rest. So this one's going to be pretty tiresome. The timer is coming up already here. So 5 more seconds. Get yourself ready. The option is to go up for 2.5 minutes, which would be crazy. So this is where it helps to have a wall, because then you can hop up. This is just about building strength and not necessarily about balancing in handstand. I know a lot of people who want to balance handstand in the middle of the room, but they can't hold it at a wall for a minute. So you have to build the capacity first. I've got an itch on the outside of my right foot, so I can kind of scratch it here with my left. Good thing I haven't cut my toenails in about 13 months. Extra long. TMI, too much information, upside down. TMI, UD. I sometimes say ooh instead of you. Okay, last breath in. Again, you can keep going. The rest will be 30 seconds. Come down, pause. You might rest hands to your knees or child's pose. When my nephew was little, I was referred to, instead of Uncle John, I was referred to as Uj. So UJ, Uj. This is a much shorter rest than normal, so just be kind on yourself, because the next minute's going to be a little bit tougher without having that longer rest. So the next minute begins in 3, 2, 1, and get yourself up. Likely that you'll have to jump up. In terms of hand position, upside down, hands closer together is more efficient, which means you could probably hold longer. Hands wider away from each other is a little bit better for balance in the middle of the room when you're learning. So just knowing the difference, that there isn't a right or wrong. Actively push down with the hands, the finger pads, the knuckles, holding strong. You could always, of course, do downward facing dog or walk your feet up the wall. Lots of different variations, but certainly building some heat. Just doing what sun salutations do to warm up the body, but going in inversion form. Last 5 seconds here. So one last breath in and one last breath out, and come down. Whew. And then pause with your knees bent, hands to your knees, holding strong. Okay, that got things pretty toasty pretty fast. Anyone have some bread for some toast? Okay, and then rise all the way to stand. Bring your arms alongside you. Big breath in and big breath out. Then lean to your right foot. Place your left foot for tree pose. Getting into the standing series. Primarily standing poses with a little bit of arm balances here or there. So join your hands together in front of your heart. Push your hands in. And it's a hold for a minute. So if you want to explore another variation with your arms, you're welcome to. But actively push your left foot into your right leg and your right leg back into the left foot. So that pressure keeps the leg together. I usually wear shorts, and I also have really hairy legs, so there's a lot of grippiness. But the few times I have worn pants and practice, it's a lot harder to do tree pose, just because your foot can slip. Okay, switch to the other side. Lower your left foot. Place your right foot to your upper inner thigh. Stand tall and join your hands together in front of your heart. So not necessarily a flow practice, and the reason there is that I do love flow practices or power practices. What they can be is less efficient, because there's a lot more time moving and less time in the poses. So there's pros and cons, of course, to all styles, and this one is a little bit more of let's be in the poses and do the work that way. Breathing fully. It is always useful to have a block, etc. for other poses. So lower your foot, bow forward. We'll do a switch by stepping back. So step back with your right foot, turn your right foot out, keep your left hand down, and straighten your left leg for triangle pose. I'm just going to use a block here. So twist fully, and option to go arm up into the air. So less about warming up the body for triangle, which is something I tend to do in more, it's not necessarily all levels, but mixed levels where you have folks who don't practice yoga that often. Triangle can be a pretty big pose. If you practice fairly regularly, it might not feel as great to do triangle this early, but it's serving a purpose in warming up your body for other poses quicker. Actively reach in opposition. And the more skillful and masterful you get with your practice, the quicker and efficient the transitions can be as well. So it'll be touch your hands down, bend into your front knee, step forward, step back, turn your foot out, straighten your right leg, triangle pose, second side. You're welcome to keep the hand to the hip, arm up into the air, arm long, cup the back of your head. You could even put your hand, I'm in a good spot with the wall here. I can push with the hand and try and move the shoulder back, twist the chest. So it's the chest and torso leading the twist and not necessarily the hand. Sometimes I see this position of people in practice where the goal is just to get the arm up into the air and forgetting about the twist effect. And then breathe fully, push down through every finger, toe pad. Imagine if your fingers were your toes and your toes were your fingers. That'd be a wild change in life. Okay, then push off your back foot, step forward, step back. This time have your back heel down, but foot pointing to the top right corner, twisted triangle pose. Place your left hand to your hip, begin to twist to the left, and then pause and hold here. So another position where it may not feel quite as good as it normally does just because we're doing the harder poses early in class. Actively push your front foot forward, bring your back heel down, twist further. And again, you could lift your left arm up into the air or keep your hand to your hip. So just breathing, doing a classic transition of going triangle, triangle, and then revolve, triangle, revolve, triangle. Anchor down, lengthen your spine, and then push off your right foot, step forward, step your left foot back. Again, heel down, more of a warrior one stance position. You can use a block, bring the floor to you. I am someone who uses blocks all the time. Got a big supply of blocks behind me. And sometimes I literally just am at home alone playing with blocks and building things and knocking them down. It's really fun. I feel like Lego could tap into a whole other market if they could create like yoga blocks that you could build things with. Lengthen your spine with your inhale. Twist from left to right. Squeeze your butt in so that you actually keep the hips fixed and twist just your torso. Okay, then turn to the floor, hands down, push off your back foot, and then step back. Going back more to the triangle stance, so turn your right foot out, side angle, Parsvottanasana. You're welcome to keep your left hand down, twist to the right, and then reach your arm longer. So oftentimes this is one that I do before triangle pose myself, just to warm up for triangle. So it's neat to do the opposite where I feel a lot warmer. I don't need the block here. I can touch my hand down and then actively stretch and lengthen. Think of the main place of power in the pose being the center of your pelvis so that you can anchor down your legs through your feet. And then from that anchoring, lengthen and extend out through both arms and through the top of your head. Touch your right hand down, push off your back foot, step forward, and then step back. So left foot goes back, turn your left foot out, left hand to the hip, twist from right to left, settle in lower, lift your chin. If your hand's to the outside of your foot, you can push your leg into your arm, arm into your leg. Breathe deeply, and then swing the arm along. Just a classic position, side angle pose, embracing the flexibility in the legs and incorporating strength and power as well. So again, envisioning the center of the pelvis being the center of the bicycle wheel and the spokes going outward, so you can exit out through your arms, your legs, the top of your head, and expand in all directions. Moving to revolved side angle position, so push off, step back, and get again a bit more warrior one stance position. And then the variations here is you can go elbow to the outside of your knee, or you could lift your back heel. I'll probably do that just because it's a bit more accessible for me. Or you could spread your wings, but then swing your left arm long. That one's just not necessarily in my repertoire physically, especially in the morning hours and not about an hour and a half into practice. So just knowing your limits and stay within it. That's what I'm always reminded when I spend $500 every week at the lottery. It's gonna happen sometime. Life's gonna change immediately. Okay, on an inhale, untwist, touch your hands down, step forward, step back. So essentially the other variation is just going to a twisted lunge. Revolve side angle is heel down, hand to the outside of the foot, and then arm long like side angle position, but revolves because it's revolved. Twisted. Staying low in your front leg. Use the hook of the elbow, lift your belly, twist from left to right. Breathe deeply. And about 10 more seconds here in the pose. So every breath is an opportunity to move a little bit further into the pose. And then touch your hands down as you untwist, step forward, step back. This time it is just classic warrior one. So heel down, rise up. You can go hands to your hips. So pull your feet in as you inhale. As you exhale, sink a little bit lower into your front leg. And then inhale, reach your arms up into the air. Every breath you take, every move you make, every song by Drake. I'll stop. I have to be careful. If you say too many of the lyrics, you actually will have copyright issues. But just every breath you take and every move you make it mindful. Reach up high, sink a little bit lower into your front leg. When you actually listen to the lyrics of a lot of the police songs, they're quite creepy. Okay, and then touch your hands down. Lift your back heel, push off your foot, step forward, and then step back. And then rise up, hands to your hips. And it's not to say you can't go through downward facing dog, square your hips, puff up your chest, move your shoulders back, and reach your arms up if you like transitioning that way. I just find it to be a little less efficient. Also, you could add a flow in, but just know that that's going to take about 15 to 20 seconds. And of course, that's not much of a difference pose to pose, but doing about 20 poses, that adds up to several minutes of just flow time and not actually in the pose time. Settle in lower, reach your arms up. You could always join your hands together. I've just been going hands wider. Sometimes I try to make things easier for myself to enjoy the practice as opposed to force things in the practice. The classic warrior 1, 2, 3 combo. So push off your back foot, step your right foot back, turn your toes out, longer stance position, front thigh parallel to the floor, and rise up. So totally different stance than warrior 1. Longer with the back foot pointing to the right. Arms can go up a little bit higher, and then on an exhale, bend further into your front knee, and then add the angel wings, and then really dramatically look over the front fingers. You can add a little sparkle hands. Just whatever it takes to keep you interested and engaged. It's so much harder practicing now than say a decade ago or 15 years ago, because the technology has changed so much. We can all have all of our information right there. Touch your hands to the floor, push off your back foot, step back, turn your foot out, and rise up for warrior 2 pose. Just to be able to stay present for 90 minutes is hard to do. It's actually why I love to do these classes live and then offer them online on the on-demand page afterwards, because when it's online, I'm held accountable because people are literally online. Breathe in deeply. Exhale, sink in a little bit lower. The attempt is going to be for warrior 3 for 1 minute. It is a long hold. It may help to actually come out of the pose a little differently here. So straighten your front leg, turn your foot in, wiggle your feet together, and then balancing on your left leg, swing your right leg back behind you, and then reach your arms forward. So full warrior 3 is capital T position, torso parallel to the floor, arms parallel to the floor, right leg parallel to the floor. Again, knowing what is possible, 1 minute here is very, very tough. You're always welcome to go arms alongside you, or you could bend your standing leg and lifted leg, create a little bit of a pulse. You could have your palms face down or face up. Just up to you. Kudos if you're doing the full warrior 3 classic version. I've refrained just because I can't talk at the same time. Last 5 seconds. This is where you wish you had a flow transition, because it's literally just lower your right foot, immediately lift your left foot, and you're in the second side in 1 second. Again, option to go arms forward. You could even just test that, see how that feels with legs straight, arms straight, torso as parallel to the floor as possible. I'm going to blame the camera angle because it feels like it's torso parallel to the floor. Or, of course, arms alongside you. Breathe in, palms face up or down, holding strong. Could add a little bit of a pulse. Continuing the one-legged balances here. So last 10 seconds. Another one where you can do a pretty quick transition. I may use a block with the left hand, so you could have a block ready to go here. So lower your left, lift your right leg, tilt forward and bring your left hand down to the floor, twist towards the right, and then reach your right arm up into the air. Using the thinner block, which is less stable, which means I have to put a bit more focus onto the left leg holding me. Just classic half moon for this first go, and then the option for the thigh stretch version for the second run through. So that's good news and bad news. Good news is you don't have to go further. The bad news is we're coming right back into it, so it ends up being a pretty long hold. Lift your chin, push down with your left hand, reach the right arm up high, breathe, breathe, breathe. And simple transition, just lower your right foot, lift your left leg up, stack your left hip over your right hip. Have the right hand about 30 to 50 centimeters forward of your foot. Just the approximate length should be the hip to armpit length, heel to hand, and then twist to the left and reach your left arm up into the air. It's really weird. I watch myself on the iPad, partly just to see comments if anyone has comments, but it's about 20 seconds delayed. So it's like seeing myself in the past. Okay, 15 more seconds here. Hope everyone's legs are starting to feel pretty warm. Mine are. Got about 4 more poses before we get to an arm balance. Okay, exact same thing. Just back to the first side, left foot down, right leg lifts. This time the option is to bend your right knee, grab hold of your foot for a thigh stretch. Coming up a bit higher on my block just to make it a bit easier to kick the right foot back and get the stretch in the front of the right leg. Oh, there it is. Oh yeah, whew. Feels good. Holding solid. 30 seconds. If I was practicing on my own, I probably would have come out of the pose at that moment in time. On my own in the sense of without a timer to hold me accountable. Okay, last 5 seconds. And then touch your foot down. Lift your left leg back behind you. And then bend your left knee, grab hold of your foot, and kick your foot back. I know a number of people online right now who are teachers or have done teacher trainings. So another thing you can do, especially if you're interested in teaching or improving your teaching, is to just audio record yourself on voice memos as you practice and teach yourself. But then literally listen to yourself and practice your class with as little judgment as possible, just to see how much you enjoy. And then eventually you'll find you start to teach the way that you like to practice. Okay, lower your foot, a little bit of a break. Step your right foot back like warrior one position. So pyramid pose, Parsvottanasana. So that's hips square to the front of your mat, back foot angled out a little bit, hinge forward, round over your front leg. I just use a block because I don't quite have the flexibility of some of you who can get forehead to shin or forehead beyond shin. Got the extra advantage of having a big shin or a big forehead, makes it slightly easier. This is a big stretch for me for the front leg and the back leg right now. It's still morning time, so it's giving a good calf stretch for the right leg. Calf muscles, not baby cow. Same setup as revolved triangle. It's just now there's no revolved portion. And then just switch legs. Step right foot forward, step left foot back. Do your best to keep the same measured distance. Push your front leg straighter. Gosh, it must be 7-8 years ago. I used to practice Iyengar yoga here in Victoria. Just every now and then. I was a casual drop-in person. But literally in a pose like this, they would measure exactly what your stance was, put markers, and then when you went to the second side, you matched exactly the same. It was quite specific and precise. Quite an interesting practice, which I love, but I came out as like the person who only wants to flow, whereas I know from flow classes that I'm the person who likes to hold positions. Okay, push off, step forward, lift your right leg back behind you. Instead of half moon, this time it's revolved half moon. So keep your right hand down, left hand to your hip, and begin to twist to the left. It's kind of like Warrior 3 here, but with a twist and your right hand down. You could reach your left arm up into the air. You could use the wall if you have it near you, or keep your hand to your hip. I sometimes will just keep the hand to the low back, doing what I can to keep the pelvis and low back approximately in neutral, and then just focus on the twist of the torso. Just like half moon, this one will have a further pose later on. So 10 more seconds, digging deep, holding strong. Okay, and then lower your foot and immediately lift your other foot. Keep your left hand down this time, twist towards the right. Way to go, we're not even halfway through practice. This is great. Twisting from left to right. Push your standing leg straighter. Breathe fully. Lift the left leg higher. Of course, have a break as you need. Have water as you need. I have set up, there'll be one more pose, just the thigh stretch version of this on both sides, and then an opportunity for an arm balance that requires a lot of strength of abs and arms. So the good news is, since handstands, we haven't really tested the arms or abs as much. Last 5 seconds here, and then Parivrtta, Ardha Chandra Chapasana. Lower your left foot, lower your right hand, lift your right leg, twist to the left, bend your right knee, reach back with your left hand, grab hold of the big toe side of your foot, kick your foot into your hand, twist from right to left. Breathe fully, hold strong. You can go hand flatter and lower to floor. Whew. That's an IT band sensation for me. That is fiery and solid. Push the front leg straighter. Front leg being the standing leg. It's just fronter than the lifted leg. Last 10 seconds. Anyone else as excited for arm balances as me? Me. Okay, and then lower your foot and switch to the other side. Lift your left leg back, keep your left hand down, reach back with your right hand, bend your left knee, grab hold of your foot, getting a twist, getting an IT band stretch on the right leg, a hamstring stretch on the right leg, a thigh stretch on the left leg. You could test your balance by even hovering the left hand momentarily. So lots of ways to play with this one. Smile, smile. I always love that. It's my favorite. Get into a serious pose and just like smile. Okay, last 10 seconds. Okay, then release your foot, lower your foot down, and sit down for a squat position. I might show back view on this one. It's going to be one-legged crow. So of course, crow is one option. One way to do one-legged crow is to go into crow first, then lift the leg back, bring it back to crow, and then lift your other leg back. It's super fiery. You have to squeeze the knees in towards the midline to do it. I'm not always successful in this version of it with both sides, so we'll see how it goes. So crow pose, and then I'm going to squeeze the left knee in, kick the right leg back, bring the knee in, open it out to the side, and then squeeze the right leg in, kick the left leg back, knee in. Oh, I might not be able to get back into crow. Whew. So that's one option. You can give that one a go. Go for crow pose. Just squeeze the knees in and see if you can lift your leg back. It is different than Kundanyasana. Kundanyasana, you get a lot lower to the ground with bent elbows. It's a lot easier Kundanyasana than what's required for one-legged crow. Another option, which will be more attainable for most, is to have your right foot, say in this case, step forward, be in the middle of the hands, but a little further back, and then bend your elbows. So hook up your right shin, then lean forward and lift your left leg up. You could even practice pulling the knee in and kicking the foot back. And that's pretty fierce and tiresome there. Doing that 3 times, that's pretty feisty. Another option is to keep your leg lifted and then just lean forward enough to lift your front foot. So it's higher up than, say, I'll just quickly show, Kundanyasana is where you get really low to the ground like that. Just a totally different pose. One last option, and that's where you can do tripod headstand. So this version of headstand we did at the start, at least I did at the start, is the one you hold for a long time. Tripod headstand is the version you use to transition between arm balances. So how this one would work is you go up into tripod headstand. You can even go teddy bear first, then go up, and then bring one leg in, hook up your shin, and then lean back to lift your head, and then head down, whew, and then switch to the other side. Whew. Definitely takes a lot of strength. That pose, without a doubt, takes the most strength of any pose that I can do. More strength than forearm stand or headstand or handstand or even press handstand or handstand to chaturanga. I can't hold chaturanga with my feet lifted, so that might be more, but certainly a huge amount of strength required there. Okay, good news. That arm balance break is over. Jump up to standing and then bend your knees for chair pose. Timer's already going, which is good news. So it's just about 40 more seconds to go. Not too long. So settle in lower. If you want to go even lower for the last 30 seconds, you could have your arms alongside you like a downhill skier, or you could reach the arms straight forward in front of you. Settling in, you're welcome to lift and spread your toes. Breathing fully. I'm hoping that you can have the space to breathe in and out through your mouth, that you're not practicing this in a public space with a mask on. That'd be terrible. Just not ideal. Okay, and then touch your hands to the floor, bow over your legs. Hold on to big toes, so have your feet about hip distance apart. Padangusthasana. And then just giving the legs a little bit of love here. With the knees slightly bent, broaden your sit bones. Bend your elbows out to the side. Round over your legs. And then push your legs straighter. We're kind of in a position now of just savoring the work that you did to warm up the legs, and now to actually stretch into that warmth. Okay, inhale, lengthen for a halfway lift position, bend your knees, try to arch your low back, and then release your big toes, except now lift the front of your feet. Slide your hands under your feet with your palms face up, and then literally stand on your hands. a pose in kids yoga that's called gorilla pose, just because gorillas have a tendency to walk on their hands, similar to this, not completely like this, but similar-ish. You're welcome to wiggle your toes to give your wrists a little bit of a massage. And 15 more seconds here. And then release one hand, then the other hand. And the final minute is just Uttanasana. So I'm not a great example of this because just getting my legs straight is challenging enough on fingertips, let alone hands flat. If you're more flexible and you have your feet wider, it gives you space to literally walk your torso round in so that you look up underneath yourself. Another version is having the feet together and moving the hands back like I am here, except have your hands totally flat to the floor. How far back can you get your hands totally flat and be rounded in? And another option is to hold the backs of your ankles, bring your forearms to the backs of your calves and bow in. So at some point when I go too far, I don't get a stretch in the hamstrings anymore. I just get a pulling in the back. And pulling isn't a stretch. It's aggravating my low back. So that's where I bend my knees and I just don't go quite as far. Okay, and then hands to your hips. Slowly rise up. Eagle pose. Balance on your right foot. Lift your left leg. Slide your left arm under your right arm. Eagle arms position. Pause and hold. Push your outer knees into each other. You're always welcome to adjust the arm variation accordingly, or even make a kickstand with your left toes on the floor. Breathing in, looking forward, believing you can fly like an eagle. Okay, last 5 seconds here. So big breath in and big breath out. Unwrap your arms, unwrap your legs, reach up, and then rebend. Lift your right leg, go right arm under left arm. Eagle, second side. Settle in lower, adjust accordingly, especially between your legs. Push your outer knees into each other. Look forward. Press your outer elbows into each other. Hold solid. 20 more seconds. I think this might be the end of standing poses, which is good news. We're definitely now past the halfway point of practice. Not necessarily winding down, but not necessarily needing to warm up anymore. Okay, unwrap your arms, unwrap your legs, reach up high, and on an exhale, dive forward, touch your fingers to the ground. Halfway lift, lengthen your spine, and then step back to plank position. Just delaying things a little bit for a 30-second hold. So turn your feet to the left, balance on your right hand for side plank position. So shorter hold, just because it's a tough one to hold. If you want to add an extra challenge to it, you're welcome to lift your left leg, grab hold of your foot like the Shavasana variations. This one's called Baby Kapinjalasana. Baby bird drinking raindrop pose. Holding, breathing. A rare opportunity to flow coming up here. Touch your hand down to the floor beside your right. Plank position. Lower halfway or all the way. Inhale for your back bend of choice. And then push it back to downward facing dog. Okay, second side for side plank. Moving forward towards plank, turn your feet to the right, balance on your left hand, reach your right arm up into the air. Option, again, to grab hold of your foot and kick your foot back behind you as you hold inside plank. Breathing strong, holding solid. And 5 more seconds. 3, 2, and 1. And then lower your hand and lower your knees. Sit between your feet for Virasana Pose. And Virasana is literally sitting between the feet. So not on the feet, but between the feet. I'm putting myself up onto a block to make it a little bit easier. And this is our little interlude. Little thighs and hips interlude. So just pause and hold here. You're welcome to have the arms straight and on fingertips, or you could rest your palms just on your lap facing up. 2-minute hold, so we're almost in for the first minute. Second minute will be in silence. So just focus on your breath as we begin. Okay, softly open your eyes and then just slowly bring your legs forward and join the bottoms of your feet together. I'm going to lower my block a little bit and open your knees out to the side, Badakanasana. If I really force myself, I can do Virasana Hero's Pose there where I sit between the feet, but the key word I just said was force. So I'm not sure that's a great situation to be with where you're forcing yourself down, because my knee then takes the brunt of it. Staying more upright for the first minute here in Badakanasana. Open your knees out to the sides. If you're fairly flexible, it might not be a stretch for you. Instead, just push your feet in and strengthen your legs. For me, there's definitely a stretch for the inner thighs. If you'd like to go further, you can then start to round in, maybe even hook your shins with your elbows as you bow. And then 15 more seconds here. Call this the quieter interlude portion of practice. Okay, and then come up, pull the knees in. I'm just going to angle myself to make room here, but Uttanasana, so wide-legged, seated forward fold. and hinge forward. Definitely a great pose, which shows the discrepancy of people's flexibility. And it can also just be bone structure as well. It's not necessarily someone's lack of flexibility, but it can be just the way that their bones have developed, specifically the thigh bone in the hip socket, that may prevent someone from forward folding further or externally rotating their hip as much. Okay, for the second minute, you can isolate to each leg for 30 seconds. So turn over one leg, bow in. You could hold your foot. I'm just someone who has an advantage over others, which is I don't have to try very hard on these seated forward folds to get a lot out of them. I essentially just have to sit down, and it's already a challenge. The blessing there is it's hard for me to focus on other things or forget the yoga practice because it's so intense. In some ways, being flexible just makes it that much more of a challenge. And then switch over to the other side, to your left. I'm just bending the knees a bit just because I'm sitting up on a block. If you straighten the legs, you will just run the risk of hyperextending. Okay, and then come all the way up. Hold underneath your knees. Pull your legs in. And then move off of a block if you're using it. Lean back and lift your feet. Hold your thighs for boat pose. Got about 40 more seconds on the clock here. You can go without support. Sometimes watching a show or something, I'll just sit in boat pose and try to hold it for about 5 minutes. So 20 more seconds. You don't have any sympathy from me. I'd say the average yogi, this is starting to get pretty easy in terms of a position. It'll be 1 minute of crunches or sit-ups, up to you. So lower your feet, lie onto your back. I'm going to go with the crunches and support the back of the head, but just lift and lower at your own rate and pace. You could pause and hold at the top, or not. Still going. Okay, and then hold your thighs, rock yourself up, boat pose again. The next pose we'll do Eka Hasta Bujasana, often translated as elephant trunk pose, is an interesting one because when I teach it, the students who are most proficient and skilled in their asana often don't listen and then just go to another pose. And they aren't actually doing the pose that was being taught, which is an interesting thing to think about, because when I look at that, I see a sort of lack of mastery because they're already predicting something that's going to happen later, and they're not actually doing the work to do some of the foundational poses. So just something to think about. So how that pose works is extend your right leg forward and then hold on to your left foot. Pull your knee back and push your foot forward. And then pull your knee back, keep it back, hold under your heel with your right hand, lift your left arm up, and then try to get your shin above your elbow but below your shoulder. You can't be too high. Well, you can in Eka Hasta Bujasana. You could actually get the leg over your head if you wanted to make the pose into a different position entirely. But now bring your left hand down, pull your left shin in, place your right hand down, and then the pose is lift your bum and then lift your foot. And then that's the pose there to pause and hold. Great strengthener for the quads. And then lower your heel, release your left leg. If you want to make it super fiery, you can lift your right leg up higher. And then it's kind of like an elephant trunk. Okay, and then switch sides. Grab hold of your right foot. Pull your knee back. And then push your foot forward. In this case, this is almost the elephant trunk. But then pull the knee back again. Hold under your heel with your left hand. Right arm goes underneath. Lift the shin up higher. And then shin above your elbow. Hand down. Lean forward. Push with the hands. Lift your hips. Lift your left foot. Add the sound effect. Hold strong. 3, 2, 1. And then lower down. Straighten your legs in front of you. Lean over to your right. Pull your left leg back. And I'm just going to sit up onto a block here. 2 options. One is to lie down onto your back, so not be on a block, or hinge forward for Triang Mukha Eka Pada Paschimottanasana, 3 limbs facing forward pose, or what's called Eka Pada Supta Virasana, so just one-legged reclined on your back. Maybe I'll show that quickly. This is my better side. The other side results in swelling of the knee. Woo, that feels like a great stretch there. So that's one option. Or the sit forward. It's just nice to have choices like those choose your own adventure stories. If you're doing the on your back version, when we switch, which is in 15 seconds, you could roll to your right side, extend your left leg long, and then roll over to your left side and then pull your right leg back and roll to center to switch legs. So switch to the other side, just show it from a seated position, lean to the right, left leg out, lean to the left, pull the right leg in, and return to center. Either hinge forward or stay relaxed on your back. If you're doing the forward fold, you can use your inhale to lift up and tall, and then exhale to round in further. And again, every breath you take, every move you make, every top sirloin steak, Sting's watching you, especially watching you do yoga. Okay, and then come out. It might be a tricky roll up, or just lean to the side and swing your right leg out if you're on your back, and then roll to your side. Next pose will be lying on your belly. So if it's easier facing whichever direction you want, go there. Not necessarily a flow class per se. Just get yourself into a position on your back. Then reach your arms alongside you. Join your feet together. Inhale and lift your legs, your arms, your chest, your head, your shoulders. As much as you can off the floor. Lift up high. So definitely a back strengthener. A position not everyone loves because it's not as glorious of a back bend as many of the other ones. And then 3, 2, and 1. Come down. Rest your forehead on your hands. Okay, then bend your knees, reach back, grab hold of your ankles or the tops of your feet, going for Dhanyarasana, boat pose. Kick your feet back into your hands, lift your knees up. Look forward, lift your shoulders, kick, 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 lift the knees high, high, high. And then on your next inhale, lift to your full capacity, as high as you can. That's it, last one. And then as you exhale, release down. You could bring your arms alongside you and look to one side. I sometimes put the hands under the shoulder. This is how I sleep. I have to be careful. I have my backup water that I'm actually touching there. Next one is Parsva Dhanyarasana, so side bow, which is just bow pose. I often call it beached whale when I used to teach to real people. So you hold your ankles, you can kick back to lift up, and then roll all the way over to your right side. Bring the side of your head down, kick your lower foot back first, and then kick your upper foot back. Oh yeah, great stretch. And then this is where whale sounds help. We go, ooh, and then roll over to the other side. And then back to center. And then release. Nicely done. Pause with your forehead to the floor. And then put your hands under your shoulders. So you know where your shoulders are. And then move them a little closer towards your hips. So the hands are a little bit more chest aligned. Setting up for Bhujangasana, Cobra pose. Lift your shoulders, the upper arm bones, towards your ears, and then away from the floor. Push the tops of your feet down and even your knees down. Then press with your hands and rise up into Cobra position. Move your shoulders back, look forward, breathe deeply. And then on an exhale, slowly lower yourself down. Okay, and then reach your right arm long and roll over onto your back. Setting up for bridge pose, Setu Bandha Sarvangasana. We'll go robot arms for this one. So dig your elbows down, have your feet about hip distance apart and under your knees. Push with your elbows, push with the back of your shoulders, the back of your head, and the bottoms of your feet, and lift your hips up. You can even move the shoulder blades closer together on the back as you lift the hips up high. Breathe in fully. Get the hips high enough that you can start to feel a stretch even through the front of your thighs, your hip flexors, your psoas. Okay, and then lower yourself down. Pause. Good news, you can go for the back bend again, bridge pose, or go for wheel pose. So hands beside your ears. And then push with your feet and your hands. Come up to the top of your head. Move your hands in a little bit closer. And then push with your legs to get your weight more towards the hands, then lift up. I like to lift the heels in this one just to give myself a bit more space. Oh yeah. Feel all the crunches that I was doing there. Good stretch to the belly. And then as needed, come down, have a little bit of a rest. If it's ever tough on the wrists, you could set yourself up to a wall to do wheel pose. Just have to get a block the same size. I'm going to imbalance myself. So I could put blocks up against the wall like that. If you don't want to watch or see, you can just go up for a second set of wheel or a third set of bridge. But just lifting up that way, that's so much easier on the wrists. And then higher up, oh, great stretch. And then come down when you need to. Whew. So again, master isn't the person in my situation where I could get my chest to the wall or jump up into a handstand. It's just knowing what your threshold is, testing the edge. The challenge with the edge is that you can fall off both ways. You can either push yourself too far, or you can sometimes just be too cautious that you don't actually test what your limits are. So it's tricky. It just really takes exploration, and that's where the years of experience and mindful experience, mindful excellence comes in. Third wheel or fourth bridge. You're always welcome to go leg up in the air. I'm not going to with the hands at the wall like this. It might go heels lifted. Make sure your feet are stable and steady. Oh yeah, great stretch. Okay, and then come down for a little bit of a rest. Whew. The opportunity is to go up for 2 more if you want, or just thread the needle across your right ankle over your left thigh, and then hold on to the top of your left shin with your right hand going between the gaps. So going up again if you want another back bend. The advantage of practicing for so long, especially a 90-minute practice, is you're warmed up. This is your chance to test your edge. Okay, and then switch to the other side, or come down for a little bit of a rest if you were still back bending. So left ankle over right thigh, and then hold on to the top of the shin. Or go up for 1 more back bend. You could really test your edge by doing push-ups. Push-ups could be go up to wheel, come down onto your head, go back up. Or a little bit further is come back down to your shoulders and go up. And really the most challenging is to lower your hips all the way back down and go right back up, and see how many that you can do. And it's definitely one exercise that makes me feel super, super strong. Okay, and then if you're just doing thread the needle, just release your leg. Everyone roll over to one side to slowly make your way up. And then once you make your way up, just come into downward facing dog. And downward facing dog being considered a cooling position here. And especially after the back bends, just to try to neutralize the body. We already did some of the hip openers, the seated poses, the forward folds. So with a morning practice, the emphasis is to stay a little bit more energized here. But think of someone pulling your hips back as you lengthen and pull your torso forward. So it's a nice juicy stretch as you push your legs straighter without compromising the shape of the spine. And a return to a pose we did earlier, Parsvottanasana, so the warrior one stance. Step your right foot forward, bring your back heel down. I'm actually going to use a couple of blocks. So stacking a block on a block, push the front leg straighter, anchor down, tone your glutes, lengthen your spine with your inhale, and exhale to bow forward. So standing forward fold. But in a fairly active position. So just neutralizing the back bends. And I mentioned earlier, if you have the ability to measure off a spot on your mat, so I'm lining that block up to the big toe on the back foot. And then seeing where the big toe is on the front foot, I'll match both sides exactly. So I can step forward with the left and then step back with the right. Parsvottanasana, intense standing hamstring stretch. It's also look at the toenails that need a cutting. Whew. Been letting myself go. Okay, and then step forward. I'll show a different angle on this one. Standing forward fold, but Parsvottanasana, which just means move your hands over to the right. And then, so not like in a circular direction, just laterally to the side. Place your left hand to the outside of your shin and just twist underneath your right armpit. If you breathe through your nose, I used to call it deodorant check. It's now COVID check. If you can't smell yourself, you may have COVID. If you can smell yourself, good news, you probably don't, at least based on the symptoms, but you may stink. Which, if you're with your beloved, those are your pheromones. They may love that. Okay, and then left hand down and crawl your hands over to the left, and then hold on to the outside of your left shin with your right hand. Pull your shins in, but then press your thighs out. Try to widen your glutes and twist from right to left underneath your left armpit. Okay, then release your shin and just sit back onto your heels. Vadrasana. If you bring your hands forward like down dog, that's Adho Mukha Vadrasana. And then moving your hands over to the right, Adho Mukha Parsva Vadrasana. You're welcome to bring your head down if you want. It's not a requirement. I actually like to keep the head lifted so it stays active. But it's just a nice side body stretch here. So push out with your left hand and tack your left hip back. Breathe deeply. You could always go fingertips too with both hands or one hand. Right hand getting closer to 3 o'clock. Left hand can be somewhere between 1 and 2. If you're under the age of 25, ignore that instruction. Okay, and then over to the other side. I'll actually face the camera and then go to the other side. Okay, and then inhale and slowly come up. I'll just face a different direction so you can see. Vadrasana, just lean forward and then move both feet to the left. So you nestle your left foot into the arch of your right foot and then lower down. So you're just on your right butt. Left hand can go behind you, or pardon me, right hand behind you, left hand to your knee, and then twist from left to right. Hi. Hey. This is a great twist because it emphasizes the arch in your low back, which is called neutral position, which is a great position to be in versus some sort of deep back bend or forward fold and twists, where that's where you're more at risk of harming yourself from a twist. Okay, and then switch to the other side. I'll just show a different angle. This time the feet go over to the, for me, I don't even remember, towards the right. So you nestle your right ankle into your left arch, and then right hand to your left knee, left hand behind you, and lift up. There's always ways to go further. In this case, it'd be the left hand reaches back for your right bicep, and then you swing across to get a bind. Not always necessary. Okay, we will have time for a nice long Shavasana. You can make sure that your setup is super restful. If you're near a wall like myself, you might want to go legs up the wall just to change things up a little bit. I'll switch the timer length to longer so you don't keep hearing a 1 minute beep. And make yourself as comfortable as possible. Legs up the wall could be legs wide or just straight-legged. You can have your arms alongside you or not. Just confirm that the countdown is going. If I fall asleep, well, yours might end up being longer. Big breath in. And exhale it out. Again, inhale. And you're welcome to out your mouth exhale. Last time. Maybe add a sigh. Move your head side to side. Just notice the legs, especially if you were in a position you could go legs up the wall. Bend your knees and roll over to either side. And allow the tingly sensation to flood over your feet and your shins as blood flows back to the extremities if you were legs up the wall. And then push with your upper hand to slowly make your way back up. And please join your hands together. Something we haven't been able to do for a long time in a live yoga class when they were happening was to sing the sound Om. So just an opportunity to softly sing Om to yourself, to your children, or to pets that are in the room with you. We'll go right into it. Big breath in. Namaste.